Latest update on Ken Ofori Atta and the extradition process. No, immigration, US, ICE police officers, and the court issues and matters arising. Abusuyan finally, Mami a ye friend no Sadinam Temaklu after say ye extradite no straight to Ghana. I just say wakwa kudi BNI for 7 no. Oba be serve ne 10 years jail term. Abusuyan CCR AttorneyGeneral de atudwa say okwa kopimo US na only US in paying for atnas na say Ken Ofori Atta ne final process of ne extradition no abusuyan omo finalize bibia de aba na wie ana Ken Ofori Atta so aba beto ama me ne so a abusuyan enye asem keto akra because Ken Ofori Atta no ya ba be breaking the honsem bebre e de akyeremo the likes of PDS MLS scandals that akesia etese ne din EPP ene they were etese omo cause financial loss to the state no abusuyan AttorneyGeneral aka ne ho bio a etese okwa akopie US abonten so na onem paying for atnas na Ken Ofori Atta abusuyan ono so ya finalize the process na enye asanketo akra mama yanko na yanko puti ensem bia ekoso ewo political highway so na abusuya ansa na yebekọ na yepese yene mudi nkomo bi sisi na open computer papa ana laptop papa na we use abura Perosi computers and accessories abusuya say ukra low budget ukra high budget obema o quality laptop na we use eba ne location so a enye irakwan owo Kumasi Buo Chrome Estate Eli friend number ya egu ye screen is 0247 030-108 and I say 0597-942-133. So friend numbers to ye na wenya Perosi computers are so friend 0540-882-824 Perosi computers and accessories and a laptop ne computer papa fi momi yankona yankonko ti AttorneyGeneral ene HSA Ken Ofori Atta ne process e ba be koso Mahama Sadinam Temaklu ono so ne extradite no ehon sema koso ewo political highway so and matters arise momi yankonko ti
Pursuit across 2 jurisdictions. Former NDC Maslock CEO Sadinam Temaklu has been extradited to Ghana to begin serving her prison sentence. She was convicted in 2024 on charges of stealing, conspiracy, money laundering, and causing financial loss to the state. Ghanaian authorities have sought her extradition under a bilateral treaty between Ghana and the U.S. In 2026, the U.S. federal court in Nevada approved the request, clearing the way for her transfer. Well, the United States Embassy here in Accra says it has now completed the extradition process. In a statement issued earlier today, the U.S. Embassy in Ghana confirmed a handover to Ghanaian authorities. Here it is. That's a statement from the U.S. Embassy in Accra, and it says that in April 2024, the High Court convicted and sentenced Sadinam Temaklu in absentia. In July 2024, the government of Ghana submitted an extradition request to the U.S. for her surrender to Ghana to serve her sentence. It continues to say that after 2 years of court proceedings, the U.S. authorities notified the government of her surrender in January this year. She arrived in Accra today, Tuesday, June 9th. And our legal affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, has been providing some details on that.
Well, Sadinam Temaklu served as Maslock boss between 2013 and 2016 under the President John Dramani Mahama's first term in office, and she headed Maslock, that small loans institution. At the time, the NPP government that prosecuted her accused her of a number of criminal offenses, including improper diversion of funds, unauthorized withdrawal of Maslock funds, money laundering activities, and conspiracy to steal and causing financial loss to the state. Ultimately, the charges were filed in court, and she underwent trial. When the trial started, she was in Ghana, and in fact, she was granted bail at some point, but during the pendency of the trial and while she was on bail, she left the jurisdiction to the United States and she did not return. it was construed as having absconded bail, and ultimately the bail amount was forfeited to the state to the tune of about 5 million Ghana cedis. And the trial state did go on because the trial had started while she was in country, and then she had left at some point and she was not back in the country. The trial concluded and she was sentenced to 10 years. I mean, the court agreed in totality or with a certain sense of the charges that have been filed by the state against her. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but she was nowhere to serve a sentence. And that is why the government at the time put in an extradition request to the U.S. asking for Madam Sedina Tamaklo to be brought back in country to come and serve a term. And then today, we have just heard from the U.S. Embassy that Madam Sedina Tamaklo has been extradited to the country to begin serving her term.
What does that mean if the U.S. says that they've completed the extradition process? Legally, what does that mean? Does she now begin serving her sentence immediately she returns to Ghana?
The understanding is that Madam Sedina Tamaklo has been brought to the country, and as we speak, what will follow usually with the process of this nature is that the Ghana Police Service, together with the Ghana Precinct Service, will take custody of her right from the Ghana, the Accra International Airport, where the flight will land. And then she'll be processed and taken through the process. She's a woman, and whenever a female person is sentenced to prison, they would have to do a pregnancy test. All of that would have to be done, and then she'll be taken to Insawam or whatever prison facility that the judgment specified that she has to serve the sentence in, and then she will start serving her sentence immediately. There's two schools of thought. There's one that says that immediately the sentence is handed down, the clock starts ticking. As in, if you are sentenced in 2020 and you are not there to serve the time, and you are brought in after 10 years, there are those who say that the sentence would have run out. But there are those who say that until she is physically taken into custody to serve her term, that sentence would not have been had. So those two schools of thought are going to compete with each other. We'll get to see what happens. Perhaps the lawyers will challenge a certain part of all of that in court. We'll get to see. But that is what is going to happen. And this morning, as she landed, we expect that the Ghana Police Service and the Prison Service will take her into custody, do all the processes that are required, and then ship her to the nearest prison facility to start serving the time.
Interesting, Kweku. Well, let's stretch this a bit further. How significant is this case for Ghana's pursuit of persons convicted or accused of corruption or corruption-related matters who leave the country before or during their trial?
Well, this brings to mind Ken Ofori, the former finance minister, and his chef of the cabinet, Ernest Akori, who are currently in the U.S. also. The country, the government of Ghana has already sent extradition packets, particularly relating to Ken Ofori. And we know that Ken Ofori for a long time was in custody for immigration-related issues, but because of the extradition issues, the matter became complicated. At some point, few months ago, he was granted bail, and he has actually now gone home, of course, being monitored by the U.S. Marshals and security agencies for that reason, and he's currently there. We know that the matters having to do with the case against him, I should say, have also now been transmitted to him in the U.S., and so the extradition process is ongoing. But it just sends a certain signal that if the U.S. government believes that the government of Ghana has done its work well and has brought together an extradition request that meets their requirements of law, they will ship whoever it is that the government of Ghana is seeking back to the country. We'll get to see in the coming weeks and months if Ghana is able to get a kind of success we'll get with Sedina Tamaklo and get Ken Ofori and Ernest Akori and other persons who are in the United States or in other countries who are currently facing trial or have been convicted to be returned to the country to face Ghanaian justice.
Well, let's take you back to the U.S. Embassy here in Accra, which says it has now completed the extradition process. Let's bring you that statement that was issued by the embassy earlier today, and it says justice has no borders. The United States has extradited Sedina Tamaklo to Ghana following her conviction on over 70 corruption-related charges, including embezzling more than $6 million equivalent in Ghanaian taxpayer funds. This is our strong U.S.-Ghana law enforcement partnership in action, demonstrating a shared commitment to accountability and the first extradition from the U.S. to Ghana since 2009. We've also been hearing from government spokesperson Felix Kwakye Ofosu on this particular matter. He revealed that the Attorney General is expected to meet officials from the United States Department of Justice in the coming days for bilateral discussions on all outstanding extradition requests between Ghana and that country. Let's bring you what he has been saying. And this is it. He says that in April 2024, the High Court convicted and sentenced Sedinam Tamaklo in absentia. In July 2024, the government of Ghana submitted an extradition request to the U.S. for her surrender to Ghana to serve her sentence. He continued to say that after 2 years of court proceedings, the United States authorities notified the government of her surrender in January this year. She arrived in Accra today. Officials of the Ghana Police Service and the Ghana Prison Service have taken her into custody and are making the necessary preparations for her to begin her sentence. Meanwhile, the Attorney General is scheduled to meet his counterparts at the U.S. State Department for bilateral discussion on all pending extradition requests between the two countries. Let's expand this conversation, and joining me on Zoom right now is former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tua Yeboah. I'll also be speaking with international law lecturer Professor Kwadwo Appiah-Tua. And later we'll hear from the MPP's Director of Communications, Richard Anyagba, as well as anti-corruption campaigner Edem Senanu. Mr. Tua Yeboah, welcome to the program. It was during your tenure as Deputy Attorney General when this process began. First of all, let me pick your initial reaction to the extradition, which has now been completed.
Yes, good afternoon, my brother. Yes, let me first and foremost extend congratulations to the U.S. authorities for responding to our requests and also having taken the step to bring Sedinam Tamaklo down. And it will also be in order that I extend my commendation to the hard-working attorneys at the Office of Attorney General and Ministry of Justice, especially the attorneys at the DPP office, who were given all the support to prosecute this matter dispassionately and also taking the necessary steps to ensure that the state got the right results from the acts of Sedinam Tamaklo and her accomplice. As a former deputy AG, I was in that office, and I can testify to the work that the DPP's office did, as well as the investigators from the state agencies in our fight against corruption. I think this is the way to go. If state agencies are allowed to work independently without interferences, these are some of the results that we are likely to get.
Well, some say this has been a long time coming. In fact, in the U.S. Embassy statement that they released, this is the first successful extradition from the U.S. to Ghana since 2009. What did your department at that time, do you say, did right to have this result?
After the conviction in April 2024, we took the steps to initiate extradition proceedings. And the attorneys responsible for such proceedings started working. And so as at August 2024, we had gotten a feedback from the U.S. authorities as to where Madam Sedinam Tamaklo was and her movements. And so when we left office in January, I was very convinced that the U.S. authorities continue with what we started. And I think they've actually done it by bringing her down to Ghana.
Quite interesting. And what does her extradition say about Ghana's determination to pursue corruption-related cases, even beyond the borders of this country?
I think it sends a signal that if you are engaged in any corrupt act, the state will pursue you. It also sends a signal that if you are to stand trial in Ghana and you decide to abscond, wherever that you be in this world, provided we have an extradition treaty with that country, the state can go ahead, prosecute you, and if you are convicted and sentenced, you'll be brought back to serve your sentence. So this shows that Ghana is a nation of laws, and also it's a nation that also abides by its obligations at the international law.
As we speak right now, so there are 2 extradition requests between the 2 countries. We know that we have requested for the extradition of former Finance Minister Ofori Atta. The U.S. is also requesting for the extradition of a Ghanaian citizen who goes by the alias Abu Trika. Do you think that this will serve as a benchmark for a smooth process to, continue between the 2? Do you think that this successful extradition of Sedinam Tamaklo will open the floodgate for the possible extradition of 1, Ken Ofori Atta back to Ghana, and 2, the one by the U.S. to Ghanaian citizen Abu Trika to that country?
When it comes to the case of Mr. Ofori Atta, that is a life matter. We are told that the state has initiated the process. Mr. Ofori Atta, we are also told has engaged lawyers in the U.S. to fight the extradition. So let's leave it there to see what the laws in the U.S. say about Mr. Ofori Atta's defense to the action. But we must also have in mind that currently there is a process in court that's seeking to challenge the authority of the special prosecutor to even initiate criminal prosecutions. And so if Mr. Ofori Atta's request is based on the OSP's charges, there will be some challenges, but let's allow the law to work and see how it goes.
Well, there's also the argument about why it took so long, 2 years and over. You started the process while you were there. Does that mean that you handed over those extradition processes to your successors? How did it go? And why did it take so long, this extradition process of Sedinam Tamaklo?
On our part, as I indicated, we initiated it.
Right.
And by August 2024, the U.S. had reached out to us, detailing the movements of Madam Sedinam Tamaklo. In December, we were also, by December 2024, we had also been informed about all the efforts being made by the U.S. authorities to initiate the proceedings there. And so having left office in January 2025, it was our expectation that we could get it earlier than we've had it now. But it's better late than never.
Mr. Attorney General, please don't go yet. I'll come back to you. Let's bring in the law lecturer, Professor Kwadwo Appiah-Etua. Welcome to the program, Professor Appiah-Etua. From an international law perspective, what does this extradition tell us about cooperation between Ghana and the U.S. in combating corruption and financial crimes, you'd say?
Thanks for having me. Yes, I think there is an international law angle to the corruption case we're having now. And in fact, in most cases, corruption and international law have some strong relationships. And here is being exemplified in the way that the extradition process was processed and followed. And so I think that when it comes to criminal law cases, while it is a domestic jurisdiction issue, if the person leaves the shores of the country, international law has to come in through the process of extradition to bring the person back to the country to face a trial or to serve sentence, depending on where the case was before the person absconded or became a fugitive of the law. So I think this is an example of how cooperation between 2 countries through an extradition treaty that binds the 2 countries can be used to ensure that justice is served for the particular country which has had some problems with a wrong committed by a citizen, or even if a citizen against another country, that the extradition exists between the 2 of them.
Right. And now that she has been extradited to Ghana, does Sedinam Tamaklo have any remaining legal remedies that she can use?
Well, I think in the area of international law, I think international law has come to an end in this respect. But within the domestic laws, I think, yes, there are some processes that Sedinat Tamaklo can take. For example, it means that we have to come back to the question of trial in absentia and whether, even though the constitutionality of the trial in absentia will come in here, and whether truly what transpired with her trial in absentia meets the constitutional test. I think the other issue will be generally that every person has a right to appeal. So even if it is not the absentia issue and it's about maybe the sentencing or something, then she can also appeal based on that.
Right.
But I guess it's also be a question of time, because when you want to appeal a case, time is of the essence. And then I think that also the issue about when the sentence begins to run. There is some debate as to when sentencing begins, and some of the view that it begins immediately judgment is pronounced. Others have the view that there can be some exceptions. And of course, there are some exceptions, but it seems not to be very clear in the case of trial by absentia. So these are lingering issues that can be raised within the domestic jurisdiction.
That was actually going to be my next question to you, Professor Appiah-Gyekye, because we know that she was sentenced in absentia for 10 years. Now that she's been brought back to Ghana, some are saying, is she going to start the service in prison afresh? Is she going to continue from when she was sentenced? How is it going to be like? There's a bit of ambiguity there, as you've rightly mentioned, but in your own knowledge, in your years of experience in this field, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think that if you are applying a black letter application of the law, we can say that sentencing has already begun.
Okay.
And for that matter, if he had stayed away for the 10 years that was imposed on her, she would have come back home scot-free. But I think that would be an injustice and a wrong interpretation of the law. So a progressive interpretation should be adopted to say that if you absconded and you therefore left the jurisdiction, sentencing will pause until you are found, and then the process, your sentencing should begin. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair for somebody who could not abscond to have served 10 years in prison, and for somebody who did abscond to come back home clean, dry and clean. Yes, that is what would be my interpretation of it. But I think it will be up to maybe the Supreme Court to make that determination.
And what precedent does this development send for other high-profile extradition matters involving Ghana, including that of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori Atta?
I think it sends a clear signal that if justice was served in this case and this lady was brought back into the country, the same process should follow in the case of Mr. Ken Ofori Atta.
Okay, abusua we ne ensma ekoso ewo political highway so Ken Ofori Atta na echese ye de ne ho nsem ebrema enye asem keto akra ye brema asem ojepene kokuti sa ensem we ede mai na maame aye friend said the name Temakro abusua the case no bibibi esi ewo ma ye next video eno na ye de ba betudwa abusua click on the notification bell no so send be ya any update be a drop be a won so won sa ebetumi aka brema ase.